The Green Bay Packers pass rush, led by Micah Parsons, dominated this Minnesota Vikings passing attack. Emanuel Wilson breaks out, but Matt LaFleur, man, you got to get it together. This conservative play calling is not it. We react live on YouTube to a big-time Packers win. Let's go.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on the socials. Locked On Packers, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet. And the show for fans who know what happened, they want to know why and how. Today's Victory Monday, if you're listening to this tomorrow, as we record this episode, is brought to you by our friends at PrizePicks, sponsored by the best way to make decisions that'll make you money. Download the PrizePicks app and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. This is the first true ass kicking we've seen the Green Bay Packers defense hand out since early in the season. We've seen the defense play well. They've come up with some big stops. They played extremely well against the Philadelphia Eagles, but 6 points, 2 turnovers, 5 sacks. Micah Parsons was dominant. They had JJ McCarthy seeing ghosts out there. They were able to force the incompletions that turn into turnovers, the deep ball over the middle that goes right to Evan Williams. I think they didn't show a good replay of it. I kind of think that Rashawn Gary play where the ball goes right to Isaiah McDuffie was a fumble. But even if it wasn't, that pressure is what turns that play into it, because he hits JJ McCarthy's hand. The ball sails in a weird way and right to Isaiah McDuffie. This is the version of the defense that can beat anybody. And look, we've seen that in about half the games this year, that their defense is capable of winning games all on its own, even if the offense is conservative. And trust me, we will talk about the conservative offense. This defense can win you these games. Now, are there questions about, hey, maybe they could be a little bit more aggressive and that would allow them to, play like this for a greater balance of the game? Maybe. But this Packers offense can be your best run defense. We still saw early in the game, the Vikings have some success running the ball, controlling the clock, and making this a low possession game. But if the offense is going to score, then the defense is going to give you every opportunity that you can have to go win the game. And look, JJ McCarthy has been bad. He's been flat bad this year. And there were questions, should he be benched last week? I didn't think he played, benchably in this game. But and we'll get to the squad show later, but I got a text from Jags during the game after the Evan Williams interception that just said, he sucks. He sucks. And he certainly sucked in this game, no question. And that's what this defense can do to you. They will just constrict the life out of you. And if you stay on schedule and you run the ball, you're going to be able to drive. But on third down, how efficient can you be? Well, this Packers defense showed, hey, early downs, they got some TFLs in this game in the run defense. That's huge. You have to have that. They got, you're going to throw the ball on first down because that's the best time to throw the ball. Okay, here comes Micah Parsons in your lap. There were a couple of drives in the second half that were ended on first down because it's a TFL. Now when you're in 2nd and 12, you can't really run the ball on 2nd and 12. Or if you do, even a nice run, 4, 5, 6 yards, you're in 3rd and medium, and this passing defense is just going to eat you up. We saw more aggressiveness from Jeff Hafley. Show that double A gap pressure. They sent Edgerrin Cooper a couple times. They didn't just put Micah Parsons on one side and rush 4. And when they did, the Vikings sent 3 bodies at him. They clearly had a plan for Micah Parsons. But the Packers were able to move him around and make this all work. And what we saw, I think, more than anything else with the pass rush was the Micah Parsons gravity in this game ultimately takes over. Rashawn Gary, who I'm sure the final stats will bear out, played much more as a percentage of snaps this week than last week, which I continue to say, like, was he hurt? I do wonder if he was hurt or under the weather, because the last 2 weeks, the snaps were down. And in this game, I thought he must have played 70+% of snaps. At least that's what it felt like watching the game. I was monitoring it on the first drive. I was monitoring, okay? Is he out there 3, 4, 5 consecutive plays? And he was. He was. I don't think it's a coincidence that the pass rush had its best game in a while with that as the circumstances. Now, I understand Christian Darrisaw ultimately gets hurt in this game. They did plenty of work against Christian Darrisaw. They did plenty of work against Brian O'Neill. They moved Micah Parsons around, and they covered things up on the back end. There were times when the ball is supposed to be out, has to be out, and there was nowhere to go with the ball. Linebackers getting into the right places. Now, we'll see on the film, right? We'll see on the final 22, on the all 22. I don't know why I called it the final 22. We'll see on the all 22 if there were actually guys open and JJ just needs to let those rip. But I thought Greg Olsen did a great job on the broadcast of saying, look, the ball has to be out here. And whether that's at the feet of a receiver or what, we'll see if there were actually guys open. But you lose Keyshawn Nixon early in this game when Devonte Wyatt, for whatever reason, does not catch his teammate. I don't know what that was about. I don't know why you couldn't. Like, you need to be more aware on the sideline than that. Now, stingers, that it's a lot of pain for early on. Usually those are not long-term injuries. They're not the kind of thing that are going to keep you out weeks and weeks. The Packers have a quick turnaround. We're going to talk about some of the shuffling that they're going to have to do, some of the injuries that they had. I do wonder if guys like Matthew Golden and Josh Jacobs were held out knowing in a couple days they have to turn this back around and go play the Lions in Detroit on Thanksgiving. But if this is the defense that shows up for that game, not only can they win, they will win. If this is the version of the defense you get, they're going to beat the Lions. Because the Lions, I mean, right now, as we record this, they're in a dogfight with the New York Giants. And we know what that looks like. Like, do you feel differently about the game that was played at MetLife last weekend, understanding what's happening right now in Detroit? I would. And I think you go back and you look at some of the other games like that. The Steelers game, you know, with Aaron Rodgers, they played and won some other big games. The Packers, in retrospect, that becomes a better performance for Green Bay. We've seen J.J. McCarthy in the fourth quarter come alive. Didn't happen in this game. Didn't happen in this game because the defense did not let up. And this version, this boa constrictor version of the Packers defense is what they were banking on coming into the season. We're just going to constrict the life out of you. And you're going to have to be perfect. You're going to have to go 10, 12, 15 play yard drives. And this is a Minnesota Vikings team that has the fewest of those in the NFL. They do not have 10, 12, 15 play drives. When we did our keys to victory, I put out a little video for social. I said, if the Packers defense does what they do best, this Packers team is going to win, because the Vikings cannot survive if they don't create explosive plays. And we're going to see it again against the Lions. If you can stop teams from creating explosive plays, you can play really, really high-level defense. Now, I would like to see more consistency from the offense. I would like to see more aggressiveness from the offense. We'll talk about the offense in a second. And I know that there's plenty of bitching to be done about Matt LaFleur and the conservative play calling in a drive where you have a chance to end the game and you call 7 straight runs. Execution could have been better on some of those third and short runs, but the play calling was also, I thought, pretty terrible. But when you have a defense like this, you can kind of see what Matt LaFleur is saying. Like, just don't give the game away. This could have been a game where the Packers won 30-6 or more had they been a little bit more aggressive, but you're also making some changes with the offensive line. We'll talk about that. So I am not making excuses for Matt LaFleur, but there is an explanation here for some of this, because when you watch the defense play like this, you go, why would you ever take risks on offense? Because if you don't, they can get you the ball back. They can get you a sack fumble. They can get you interceptions. They can create turnovers for you. And the Packers ultimately get a 23-6 convincing, dominant win. If you can beat the daylights out of a divisional opponent, a desperate divisional opponent playing for their season, like the Minnesota Vikings season. Now, Luke Braun on Thursday said this is over anyway, but this game was the season. And the Packers took it, came out and just took it. And they did it mostly on the back of their defense. Now let's talk about the offense. We'll do that next on Locked On Packers. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is about making money off the thing you do every day, making decisions. The holiday season is one of the best time for sports, bowl games, big basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while we're all making choices every day, one of the most fun places to make the right call is PrizePicks, the fastest and easiest way to get in on daily fantasy. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections. You lock in your lineup and you're in the game. Plus, I love the stacks. This is my favorite feature on PrizePicks. I love to do it. You pick more on, you could pick Emanuel Wilson's rushing and receiving yards, for example. Now you need, you got a lineup. That's it. You got a lineup. Download the PrizePicks app and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Okay. Offensively, that's where I don't understand it. 42 runs. Now, a couple of those late. 2 of them are Malik Willis knees. So 40 runs to 22 passes. There's just no defense. And I don't mean this like offense versus defense. There is no defending a drive where you have 7 straight runs and then you don't go for it on 4th down. Like if you're going to run it on 3rd and 1 and lose 2 yards or 3 yards even with this team, and you have a chance to go end the game, basically like a 2-score game, you're 1 fluky play, 1 fumble, 1 punt return, 1 something from being in a dogfight with a team that you absolutely dominated. 145 total yards for the Minnesota Vikings. And you just couldn't be bothered to try anything more aggressive. They come out with the first play of the game in the second half, a play action pass. It picks up 10 yards. And it's like, if you're going to run the ball this much, you have to be willing to use play action to give yourself easy looks. They threw it with Malik Willis in the game. And guess what? It picked up 9 yards to Luke Musgrave. Like that would have been there all game. Not every play action pass has to be a shot play. And that was the balance that the Packers could not find in this game offensively. Against the Giants, they did a terrific job of finding short and intermediate opportunities against that defense. Now, that's a bad run defense, but the Packers made this run defense, which is a pretty good run defense, look like a pretty bad run defense. They ran the ball down this team's throats. The final numbers are not going to show that it was anything flashy, 3.5 yards per rush, but Emanuel Wilson was efficient. They created some explosive runs, some 10-yard plus runs. And you like to see that. You like to see a team willing to say, we know we can beat you at the line of scrimmage and we're going to prove it all game. But then on 3rd and short, you can't do it. Like this was the Packers' first 100-yard rusher in a calendar year. That's good. But if it takes 40 rushes to get there, and it didn't, but if you're not going to be efficient, and they weren't efficient enough to justify it, then this can't be the way that you live. And I don't know how Matt LaFleur can watch what happened last week. Watch Matt LaFleur call pass after pass. Now, they ended up pretty balanced in that game, but the run game was working. But every pass that he called worked against the Giants. All of them. And that's a really good pass rush with Kayvon Thibodeau and Abdul Carter and Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns and all those guys. It's a really good pass rush. And Jordan Love just made magic. That 3rd and 10 play to Dontavian Wicks, I'm sure Bears fans will say, well, he just threw the ball up. No, he didn't. He hit a fadeaway jumper right over the linebacker, right to a receiver sitting in a vacated zone. A perfect pass, a perfect play. Just trust Jordan Love. The only explanation, the only defense, I guess I'll say, is we saw Jordan Love, and I thought Greg Olsen went a little over the top wondering what was going on. The guy has a separated shoulder. Like he has an AC joint sprain, which is a separated shoulder in his non-throwing shoulder. So on wide handoffs, he can't extend his left arm to make those plays. They ran a couple toss plays on plays where maybe he would extend the ball with his left hand. Maybe that's part of the reason that the play action game was just not as part of the solution as you would like it to be. But then run waggle play action where you're faking to the right side and coming back. The boot play actions. That stuff was just non-existent in this offense. If you're protecting Jordan Love because you know he's hurt and he made it through the game and you needed him to make it through the game against the Giants, okay. And Matt LaFleur is at the podium right now. We'll get some more information on that as we move forward here. So but this is part of a trend for Matt LaFleur. This is not like a one-off. As a one-off game plan, whatever. We could dismiss it and say Jordan Love was hurt. This is a really aggressive Minnesota Vikings defense. And so the best way to handle it is to just run the ball, especially when the run game was as effective at times as it was. But why not? Why not get to a little bit more play action? Why not? If he can't extend the ball to his left, okay. How about just some straight drop back? How about just some traditional get under center and drop back, or get in the gun and drop back? It felt like every time they called a pass, it was a play action shot play, or it was a long developing 5-step from the gun kind of play where you want to hit some, big over route or some deep post or something. Where was the intermediate stuff? The one play Jordan Love early in the game created, extended, and hit Romeo Doubs for 18 yards. That's what Jordan Love was doing all game against the New York Giants. Where is that in this game? Why not let him go play quarterback? You're paying him all this money. You can't keep coaching not to lose. It's not going to work when you play the best teams, because Mike Macdonald, Sean McVay, Nick Sirianni, they're not going to play not to lose. They're going to go play to win. And the Sirianni point is an interesting one, because it feels like this team wants to be Philadelphia. Matt LaFleur would love to be Philadelphia. Just run, run, run. And when you throw, try and hit some deep balls. But A.J. Brown doesn't live here. Devonte Smith doesn't live here. The best offensive line in the NFL doesn't live here. So that's just not a reasonable way to try and win games. You have to let Jordan Love do more. Now, if the game necessitated it, do I think they would have thrown the ball more? Yeah, sure. I think they probably would have. But this is a game where your defense is absolutely kicking ass and taking names, that a more aggressive coach, I think Kevin O'Connell with a different quarterback, or Dan Campbell, they would have tried to score 40 in this game, because you're like, they get the big punt return. They get the big stop. And you have nice field position. Inside run. Not play action shot play. Not aggressively trying to go win the game. Let's just try not to lose. Let's try and get out of our own way. That's just not going to be good enough against the best teams in the NFC. This Packers defense is awesome. But to not even really try to score touchdowns in the second half when you got the ball in plus territory multiple times, it's inexcusable. Even if Jordan Love is banged up, he seemed fine dropping back and making throws. And I know they didn't, this is, again, a blitzing defense, an aggressive defense. They didn't want to expose him, I'm sure, to any more hits than absolutely necessary. Maybe this was one of those games, Josh Jacobs doesn't play. Matthew Golden doesn't play. You're already without Jaden Reed, though I think he's got a chance to play on Thanksgiving. We'll talk about that in a minute. Where you're like, let's just win and get out of here. But you got to trust your quarterback. No. We saw that Jordan Love at times is not trustworthy protecting himself. I thought he did a good job protecting himself in this game. But I can see Matt LaFleur going, okay, Matthew Golden's out, Jaden Reed's out. We're messing with the offensive line. This is a blitz-happy defense. They're going to bring all sorts of funky looks. And we saw that the last pass that Jordan Love attempted, he changed the protection multiple times, trying to figure out who was coming from where, and they still didn't quite pick it up. And so you just like, okay, let's just protect Jordan from himself. On some level, I understand that. But there's a better line to ride here. There's a better balance to strike and find. It's there. They just haven't quite been able to find it. Now, as I said at the top, you beat the crap out of a divisional opponent playing for its life with their season on the line at home where you've lost 2 straight to beat the daylights out of the Minnesota Vikings is a good day. Is a good day. So let's make sure to keep that part in perspective and to do it on a day where you were very conservative, I think speaks overall to the talent on this team, to the talent on this defense. But in some ways, you worry that Matt LaFleur is going to learn the wrong lessons from all this. Okay, we can just play like this forever. No, you can't. And we saw him do it against Philly. They played that Philly game not to lose too. Way too conservative. And I appreciate Greg Olsen being willing to call that out and say, this is just way too conservative. He did it against the Panthers game as well. This is just way, way, way too conservative. I'm starting to worry that it's just not going to get fixed, that this is the way that Matt LaFleur wants to play. When Josh Jacobs get back, they're going to continue to do this. They're going to try and beat teams the way that teams are beating them by just possessing the ball without understanding that you're the better team. And you can be the better team against anyone you play if you just go play. Let it hang out. Let it be free. Now, they did win this game with being touchdown favorites. They won it convincingly. They covered the 6.5, all that stuff. Our friends at FanDuel. I hope you had that. I hope you didn't take the over with it, because that did not hit. And we were right to believe that this offense was going to struggle. This Minnesota Vikings offense was going to struggle to score points. That's not an excuse. That's not an excuse. Now, there were some other things that I liked in this game. I want to talk about Emanuel Wilson. I want to talk about Anthony Belton. Talk about Jaden Reed, Matthew Golden, Josh Jacobs. A lot of stuff still coming up next. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at Gametime. NFL season getting into playoff mode here, and there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. Let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle. Between queues, login screens, prices jumping at checkout, it's frustrating. That's why you got to use Gametime, the fast and easy way that is also backed by the Gametime guarantee. You always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. Plus, zone deals. Pick the section, Gametime picks the seats, and you save big. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. The Packers opened with a rotation at right guard. Anthony Belton, who had not played right guard before, going out there, and I thought playing pretty well. I didn't notice anything glaringly bad in pass protection, which is where you're most concerned. He moved bodies in the run game, though that I continue to insist that that's not really his strength, but it's going to give you some nasty, some physicality. And I thought the combination of Sean Rhyan and Anthony Belton provided a lot for this team, that they were able to run off that right side a good amount and with good success. So is Jordan Morgan done at right guard? Based on the way the snaps played out in the second half, it kind of seems like he is. So then does he get an opportunity? I didn't think Rasheed Walker has played great this season. We've talked about that on this show before. Does Jordan Morgan get an opportunity now to play a little bit of left tackle, to see, hey, this guy's going to be the presumptive starter in 2026 going into the season, played well in preseason. Now, a short week against Aiden Hutchinson might not be the time, but against the Bears, who don't really have that edge rusher that you're really worried about. And you still have to play the Broncos in Denver. That's going to be a tricky one for a rotation at left tackle. But then you play the Bears again. Again, they can't really pressure the quarterback off the edge. Montez Sweat is a nice player. He's not Micah Parsons by any stretch. And the Ravens don't have anyone that scares you there either. So this could be a nice stretch to just see, hey, is this guy someone who you can count on? I think it's there. I think it's there. Now, Emanuel Wilson is someone who, and I love that they kept going to what a great story this was. 28 carries, 107 yards, 2 touchdowns, ran with force at the goal line. The final numbers are going to say, yeah, he averaged a shade under 4 yards per carry. It was not a particularly efficient running game for him, but he created some explosive plays that Josh Jacobs have just not been able to create. A long of 12 is not going to, make anybody throw a parade, but he had a couple 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-yard plays. And you do need those if you're going to matriculate the ball in this sort of conservative way. So if you don't have Josh Jacobs, Emanuel Wilson showed he is more than capable of giving you something very productive in the run game. And then you combine that with Anthony Belton. Maybe we see some of those guys in there at the same time. Chris Brooks, once again, pass pro as a blocker. He's everything you want. He's everything you want as a pass protector. And so Emanuel Wilson on early downs, Chris Brooks on third downs, and on some other obvious passing downs. They gave Chris Brooks the ball a couple times. I thought he made some nice plays in those situations. Now he's not gonna win any beauty contests. Again, 8 carries, 21 yards. Some of those were at the end, but in the game flow, had a third down that he picked up. So that's a nice wrinkle for your offense. You did all this without Matthew Golden, without Jayden Reed. Jayden Reed, the Packers opened his practice window on Friday. Matt LaFleur said earlier in the week, we're only going to open someone's practice window if they can have a full week to prepare to get them ready to play. Seems like Marshawn Lloyd is close. Not there yet. Jayden Reed, though, in a game like this, he has been the Vikings killer in his NFL career. Let's not lose sight of the fact that the Packers got swept by Minnesota last year. But in that game in Minnesota, the second time in 2023, it was Jayden Reed who lit that Brian Flores defense up. The big play, the touchdown against Too High, that was great. Against the Lions, you're going to need your horses. You're going to need Josh Jacobs. Do I think they played conservatively here with Jacobs because of the Thursday night game or the Thursday game? It's hard to say for sure. Maybe in their heart of hearts, they thought, hey, we can win this game without him. So if he's borderline, sit him. I think it speaks to the faith that they have in Emanuel Wilson. It speaks to the faith that they have in Jordan Love to make these plays when they need to on third down. Like if you're going to live in this run pass world, you have to convert a bunch of third downs. The Packers didn't convert a bunch of third downs, but they are one of the best third down conversion teams in the NFL. They ultimately convert 50% in this game, 7 of 14. And a handful of the ones that they didn't convert were those third and short runs. They have to execute better on those plays. They have to find some better, maybe specialty third down plays. It seems like when they want to run when it's 3rd and 4th and 1, they're going to run inside zone or they're going to run duo, which for the defense cashes out more or less the same way. They have to be less predictable in those situations. Do I think Jayden Reed on jet sweeps could be a part of that? Yes. Jayden Reed on early downs as part of the run game, as part of you get into 21 that's not really 21, that's really 11, but you line Jayden Reed up in the backfield. It just gives you so many more options, especially against a team that they're going to face this week in the Detroit Lions, who are a more man coverage team. Now you're giving yourself some opportunities to get more creative in the run game. This was a run-heavy game where they didn't really do anything that interesting. They didn't really get to that spinner single wing stuff. They didn't have it. They seemed to run one end around a game. They didn't in this game. Now they were going to do it. They had to call timeout. It looked like they were either going to fake the end around or they were going to give to Bo Melton. Bummer for Bo that they had to call timeout and they run a different play after that. And then same with Matthew Golden. Like he got through the game. It seemed healthy. And I wonder if this was one of those things where it's like, okay, if they just keep playing him, he's going to be banged up on a short week. You risk the injury. Just give him some extra couple days to get healthy. And then on the short week, he can go. Matthew Golden, Christian Watson continues to produce. Dontavian Wicks, Romeo Doubs, all these guys. Now you feel like you have your full arsenal of players and you can really go attack the Detroit Lions. And this stretch. This was a critical win, 7-3-1. Unfortunately, still looking up at the Chicago Bears in the division, but you get them twice. And it's not like the Bears did anything special in this game. They had to hang on to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers with Mason Rudolph, a 28-point defensive day for the Bears. I mean, that's not what you want if you're the Bears. I think the Packers are going to be able to score with relative ease on this defense. So the defense is doing what it's supposed to do. The offense is still figuring it out. But the defense is going to give you a chance every week. And now you're getting your playmakers back. You're getting Jaden Reed back. You're getting Matthew Golden healthy, hopefully. Now you have a chance to go make a run. All right. We have 60 more minutes of post-game coverage on the Locked On Packers podcast live on YouTube. Come hang out with us after the game. We're here for 60 more minutes with the squad show. Otherwise, we'll see you back on the podcast feed tomorrow. Follow me on the socials. Follow the podcast on the socials. We will be live after the Thursday game, after the Packers beat the Detroit Lions in Detroit. That will be a fun one to do. Bring your old fashions, bring your wine, bring your beer, bring your whatever you got. Bring your tryptophan induced food coma, all that good stuff. Maybe it won't have eaten by then. I don't know. Will we? I don't know. We haven't decided yet. So go check out all the stuff that we're putting out this week on Locked On Packers. Locked On Sports Today is there for you. Subscribe on YouTube so you can get the alerts. Make sure you know when we're going to go live like we are right now. We'll be live on Thursday after the game so you can stay Locked On Packers.